Hey, this is Bryce Harper, and welcome to the Phillies Show.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Phillies Show. It is Monday, August 5th. I am Jim Salisbury, joined by Ruben Amaro, and we're coming at you this morning without our fearless leader and kind of the backbone of this whole show, the brains of the operation. Todd Zalecki is having a tough travel day on the West Coast as he heads from Seattle down to L.A., the next stop for the Phillies. Ruben, it appears you, though, flying first-class charters with the team and not commercial, appears you have made it to L.A. Where do I find you this fine morning?
We did have a little bit of a travel issue also, actually. We almost could not get here till super late, but they had a little mechanical action. But believe it or not, I'm at the Beverly Hills Four Seasons, which is where they filmed Pretty Woman, one of my favorite all-time movies. In fact, they filmed it all of it in here, I think. I do believe. So
Wow.
My man Greg Murphy informed me of that yesterday when we strolled in and we were waiting for our keys to roll into our rooms. But it's a beautiful hotel, and going to try to scout around a little bit in Beverly Hills here. Got a couple of friends here that I'm going to see, an old high school buddy who's a big-time agent, and hang out a little bit. But I'm also going to later on. I'm going to, and as you know, the Philly Show is part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm going to scoot on with them a little bit later on this morning to talk to the boys about this upcoming Los Angeles Dodgers series with the Phillies. But excited to be back on the West Coast. I haven't been here too many times as of late, and it's going to be an exciting series, Jim.
So that hotel, Pretty Woman, I can still see those scenes where she comes downstairs and she needs to buy a dress. And Hector Elizondo, one of my favorite character actors, Hector Elizondo sends her over to that boutique, and then they were mean to her. She comes back. He sends her over to another store, and they hook her up with some gear. But Hector Elizondo was in one of my all-time favorite movies from the 80s, The Flamingo Kid. Check it out.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw that movie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great
coming-of-age movie, and I always really liked his work. So that's pretty cool. You're in that hotel lounge when her and Richard Gere meet up before jumping on the airplane to go to the opera. That's sort of the lifestyle you live, jumping on private planes, going to operas, you know.
Really? No, I've been on a private plane 2 times in my whole life. There was a rumor out there that I had my own private plane one time. I think they threw that out there on WIP one time. I'm like, come on, guys, please.
I've been on a private plane.
The GMs don't do that well.
I was on a private plane once, and I think you may know the story, but I'm not going to reveal the story right now. But it's an awfully good one. We'll save that for another episode. It has
Save your powder, Jim.
Save that powder. Keep it dry, like for the trade deadline. Anyway, you're coming out of Seattle, and I don't know if I've seen a team in a long time that needed a victory more than the Phillies. They got one yesterday. What was it, a 6-game losing skid they snapped? Or?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it sure was. And they would really struggle. And I mean, there's a lot of teams that have had a lot of success. We talked about it on the air about some other teams, you know, in 08, 9, 10, and 11. Obviously some teams like in 93, we had long time droughts, but they bounced back, and it was a huge win for them yesterday. And the man that stepped forward was Zack Wheeler, man. Yeah. You talk about being an ace and a stopper. I mean, he performed in exactly the way they needed. They had blown up their bullpen quite a bit in the first 2 games. Disastrous loss in the second game after being up several runs. That was a tough ball game to lose, but they showed some resilience and bounced back and won a really huge game on Sunday before traveling here to LA.
Well, I think we talked about that on Friday, kind of off the cuff. We said something to the effect that, we're not going to see each other till Monday. Zack Wheeler pitching on Sunday, coming off a difficult outing against the Yankees. Team's not going so well, and we thought that he might be loaded for bear on Sunday, and he certainly was. 8 innings, shutout. I think 8 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts, 1 walk.
9 strikeouts, 1 walk, just 2 hits. I mean, he was dominant. An amazing catch and lucky catch in center field by Brandon Marsh. Ball kind of caught him. But it was also a great day to watch Mr. Harper bust out because he needed to, and he did so in a huge way. Got a double the day before in the left center, but he's hitting some milestones that are just pretty amazing. 3,000 total bases. I mean, the things that he's doing are amazing in his career. But for him to bust out, that was huge. Huge home run, a couple of bullets to right field. Schwarber started things off with a bang, with a bullet home run off of Logan Gilbert, who is outstanding. This guy can pitch, man.
Yeah.
He had a great day, and then they finally grinded him down, got to the bullpen, and they did some damage to the bullpen there at the end. But it was a big win for them, and I think just more than anything else, great for their psyche.
No doubt. You mentioned the psyche. The mind can lead the body often in this game, in sports, in life. I think there's an old ancient Buddhist saying to that effect, if someone wants to put it in the comments. But the mind can lead the body. And, it's amazing what a getaway win can do for a struggling team as it gets on the airplane. It's been a tough road here. We all still believe in this club. It's a good club. They got a track record. They didn't do what they did the first 3 months or whatever by mirrors and with a mirage. But there's no doubt they've had a tough stretch. And obviously one game doesn't mean you're out of it. They need to build on that. But I look at that catch by Marsh, and I want to talk about the offense. But while the catch is still on my mind, it kind of reminds me of moments I've seen throughout covering baseball for many years is, you'll get to the end of the season, especially a successful season, playoff type season, and as a writer, you'll write about the moments that mattered, the moments that maybe righted the ship, turned it around. And that, if they build on yesterday's win and right the ship and get it pointed in the right direction over the final 2 months toward October, we might be sitting down and you might be talking about how symbolically, that moment meant something in the turnaround. Now, Harper's 3 hits, the offense coming alive late, obviously is going to mean more, but sometimes symbols mean something to me. And it just almost was like that catch, that ball dropped from the heavens and landed in Marsh's glove. And it kind of gave me a feeling like, wow, maybe everything's going to be all right. What do you think?
Well, that's a really good point because it was still in a pretty critical part of the game. I think it was a 1-0 game at the time still, and they were hooked up. Gilbert and Wheeler were hooked up in a very, very tight battle. It may in a lot of ways, you may be right, Jim, because everything up until that point for like the last, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever you want to call it, it was almost like Murphy's Law. Things were like going wrong. Everything that could go wrong was kind of going wrong. And it was like the one moment where things actually went right and they got a break, so to speak. So it may have been one of those things. Sometimes, and we talk about it a lot in 2008, sometimes you got to be a little bit more lucky than good. And you have to obviously be a good team, but sometimes it is better to be lucky than good. And I think you create that mojo with your attitude in the clubhouse. And they did really stay very steady. Had a lot of talks obviously spent a lot of time with Topper during the course of this, struggle. And, they keep the brave face, man. The clubhouse is not super down. Obviously they're frustrated. But I think that they still believe in themselves and just the fact that they do, and they're not down on themselves. They know they're a good ball club. They know they're a better ball club than they've shown in the last, 2 months, but they're probably not as good a ball club as they showed in the first 2 months.
Yeah.
And so they're probably somewhere in between, but they're really a great ball club. As far as talent is concerned, it's just a matter of whether they can, finish it off and play good, solid baseball for the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, you're never as good as you are when you're at the top of the mountain. You're never as bad as you are when you're at the bottom of the mountain, and that's baseball over 162. I think you can toss away the peaks and toss away the extreme valleys, and you're going to find yourself somewhere in that middle ground. And obviously the offense has been a frustration, a concern. Watching that series, first two games, if you can locate a high fastball like that much, half an inch above the letters against this team, and it's a power fastball, you're going to have a lot of success, because they have a hard time laying off that, and anybody has a hard time hitting that. If you miss your spot with that same pitch, Bryson Stott yesterday, boom, that fastball came down a little bit, and he found it. He jumped it. It was a really good thing to see. What did you see from the offense, the end of the Yankees series, first two games in Seattle, as compared to yesterday? Was it an awakening in your mind?
Well, I think a couple of things. I mean, obviously, Harper's success is pretty important. And the guy at the top of the lineup, Schwarber, is an important one as well. I mean, you start thinking about your ball club and the guys who get the bulk of the at-bats. You're talking about Schwarber, Turner, and Harper. And those three guys are really the most important parts of this offense. If they can get things rolling more consistently, what I'm seeing right now out of Turner, who's probably struggling the most. I know Harper was, 0 for whatever, but to me, even though Turner is getting some hits, he's not impacting the ball nearly the same. He's sort of cutting across the ball. He's not staying through it more as consistently and flat with his swing. He's not using the other side of the plate, the other side of the field, and they're throwing a lot of breaking balls. He's chasing for strikeouts. And he's a really important part of this offense. Now, don't forget, man, he was on fire. He had MVP type numbers when he was playing and healthy. And so he is a critical part of this offense. And he's been smothering a lot of pitches to third base and topping them. And it's almost like he's not staying as flat and through the middle as he has in the past. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I have seen, and I think that the lineup can be exploitable, because I think you can go soft early on them and make them swing at pitches that are out of the strike zone, and then force a lot of the guys to swing at pitches up out of the zone, as you talked about, Jim. And it's really about plate discipline. You got to get them, and this is what happens when you get frustrated and you're not swinging the bat well. You want to swing your way out of it, so you're swinging at pitches that are outside the strike zone, and you're sort of guessing and just trying to guess with pitchers. And I think more than anything else, they just need to stay. If these guys just stay through the middle of the field and have the mindset, okay, I'm just going to stay through the middle of the field and get a strike to hit, I think they'll have a lot more success. Now, it's hard when you're at the plate and you're struggling, man. I've been there. I've done it. I mean, your body just does different things because your mind's not settled and relaxed. Mm-hmm. And so you're doing different things physically that you would not typically do when you're going well. When you're going well, you don't even think about it. You just see the baseball and you hit it. And I think when you're struggling, and they were struggling collectively, I've never seen like a whole 9 guys go down at the same time. No, it's kind of bizarre. That very, very rarely happens. But it was happening for the Phillies. One of the really bright spots, I feel, is Brandon Marsh. I think he's 4 for his last 4 against left-handed pitchers. That's huge, because if they feel like they're comfortable with Brandon Marsh, hitting deep in the lineup, hitting in a 7, 8, or 9 hole against left-handers, and he can flip the lineup over with a couple of base hits, that I think makes them sort of a much better team overall. Mm-hmm. Because Johan Rojas really has not done much offensively, and I think he's going to end up at the end of the day, that allows them to let him play the role of what Pache did, which was basically come in for defense, or maybe against a tough left-hander, and provide a little bit more speed from off the bench and that sort of thing. But I like the development of what's going on with Marsh a little bit there. Obviously, you got to get Harper going, which is what he did yesterday. But Turner's the guy. To me, Turner's the guy, and if he can start, getting warmer and start hitting the ball more consistently through the middle of the field and flatten out that swing a little bit, I think that they're going to be just fine.
we always talk about a million times over the years what can happen to a team when you get multiples of your big guns swinging it well, multiples of your big producers hot. Conversely, you can really go in the tank when multiples of your big guns are cold, and that's kind of what we saw. And I do agree. I think this whole lineup takes a lot of cues from Trey Turner. He's essential. He's vital. Kyle Schwarber, vital. They might take all, the bulk of their cues from a guy like from Harper. And it was good to see him. It almost looks like he slowed things down a little bit yesterday, at least on a couple of those hits, especially one maybe in the seventh inning before the home run. It kind of smoothed it out there. You talk about staying in the middle, and it looked like a less is more swing. Did you sense he slowed things down a little bit yesterday?
Yeah, he's always trying to impact the ball. He's a very hard swinger. I mean, he's always been like that. That's never going to change. But he was obviously a little extra hard with his swing over the last, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 games. And so I think you're right. I think he's probably relaxed a little bit more. I think the fact that he got that double 2 days ago to the left center field, that sort of got him going. Anytime it was a little bit like Bobby Abreu. Bobby Abreu would go in like 0 for 8 or 0 for 10, and then all of a sudden he'd sit back and then flip one to left field, and all of a sudden, he's back. His timing's back. Now he can use the middle of the field. Now here he goes. And I feel like that's the same sort of thing, different type of hitter, but the same sort of thing for Harper. And I think that's one of the things I think that they want him to try to do. And it's tough when you're in the box. Is want him to try to not swing as hard. But that's a really tough thing. We've talked about it. Like when you're slumping and you're struggling, man. I mean, you want to try to impact the baseball in any way, shape, or form. And he's never one of those guys who's going to back off. Like when he gets on the golf course, I don't even know if he plays golf. He's not backing off his swing, man. He's whacking it. And so, but I did feel like he had a little less effort in that swing than he has had over, the prior maybe 8 or 10 or 12 games or whatever it was.
I mentioned Stott. It was good to see him hit an important home run with a nice swing. It looked like it was a no strider. Really simple, bat head to the ball, strong kid. He can make that. He can move that ball, as Charlie would say, without being violent and a lot of movement in his head and his body. And that's what he did. Kind of no stride. Boom. What would it mean to this team to get him going?
Oh, it'll be huge. I mean, this guy he's got such a good sense of the strike zone. And I do think that he's been trying to impact the ball like way too much. I see him going down on a knee at times. Last year he really concentrated on getting his top hand down to the ball. This year I see him sort of, working underneath the baseball a lot more, trying to impact the ball in the air, trying to get back all those hits in one swing. But when he stays short to the ball and he can use that top hand to drive, especially on the high pitch, because that's where they're trying to get him out. And he's been real vulnerable. He's been fouling them off or flying, popping them up. When he's staying on top of it, he can line it to left. He can drive the ball out of the ballpark. He is a bigger kid than you think. I mean, he's, 6'2". He's not a small kid, 6'1", 6'2". And he can impact the baseball. He does, and he's got the leverage to do it. He doesn't need to try to drive the ball. He just needs to get his hands going and stay on top of the ball a little bit more consistently. And I think he'll have more success. He's been a little bit of a disappointment overall just because you felt like he was going to really progress this year. But if he gets going at the back half of this season, which he can, I believe that in my heart of hearts, that makes this lineup way deeper.
And JT's another guy. Real Muto scuffled since the knee injury, but sometimes it takes a little time when you've been down. We've seen him go through these spells before, but we've also seen him turn it on. So, are you thinking he's getting a little closer from what you're seeing?
He hit a ball to right center field for a double yesterday, and that's big. That was typical sort of, and it was a fastball in, and he stayed through it. A little bit like Castellanos has done, and obviously Alec Boehm, who does that as good as anybody on the ball club, where he can He can impact the ball to the middle of the field, but it doesn't have to necessarily be, even if it's a fastball inside, they stay inside it well enough to drive it to the opposite field. And again, that's a little bit like patented when JT's going well, he does that. My theory on that is that when none of these guys do rehab assignments anymore, and I really think that's, and again, there's not that many guys that can like get out of bed. Like John Kruk could get out of bed and put put a barrel on a bullet. There's not a lot of dudes like Carlos Baerga could do that. I mean, guys that I played with, where you can literally, he didn't have to pick up a baseball bat forever, and he could just somehow barrel it up. And I don't know that there's that many guys who can do that. And since in this day and age, guys really guys who have enough service time really can opt not to go to rehab assignments. I don't know if that's the greatest thing in the world. Now they can try to simulate. They have different machines they can utilize, and velocity machines and breaking ball machines and all that stuff. But it's not the same, man. It's not the same, and I think it's one of the reasons that you don't see guys. Some guys can do it, but you don't see a ton of guys just hop back and just be able to rake. You got to get your sea legs underneath you. You have to get your timing. You have to see the arm swing. You have to, get your timing to load and all that stuff. And you don't really do that. I mean, you could create simulated games, which I think the Dodgers are going to do for a whole slew of guys that are coming off the DL or IL right now here in a few days. But I mean, I really feel like if you're not actually facing live pitching in a game, I don't know. I'd like to see guys at least go out there and get 2 or 3 games of at bats before coming off the IL. But it's a different world out there now, man. And, guys are more reluctant to do it.
Well, put your GM hat on. It's 2025. It's next year, and you're running a ball club that had guys come off the IL and scuffled coming off the IL. Do you try to, you can't really demand it, but you can strongly recommend it. How do you try to persuade guys that this is the best thing for you and the team, that you need to, we tried this last year, it really didn't work. Would you have individual conversations with the player, with the agent? How would you attack that if you in your heart felt that a rehab assignment was really the right thing and you thought you had a reluctant camper?
The answer is yes. I would talk to everybody about it. I would talk to the agent. I would talk to the player. I would talk to our people about it. And I would talk. I think it's so important for the player to have his heart be in it, because if you sort of have to make it his idea, like, hey, maybe it is better for me to do it. It's almost like when you're coaching. When I was a coach, you wanted to build a relationship with the guy, and you talk about certain things that you may want to tinker with or change. And you would ask the guy, hey, is there an area that you would like to improve? And if they give you that you can sort of make it their idea that, hey, you know what, maybe this is something I can work on. And I think that's important, because if the guy's heart's not in it and he goes and takes rehab assignments in Reading or in Lehigh Valley, and he's just there going, like, what the hell am I doing here? I think it's going to end up being more detrimental. But if the guy really believes that will help him, and you can convince him to do, or he can convince himself that it's the right thing to do, I think that's the way to sort of approach it.
Yeah, I'm a believer in them. I've seen them for years, and it wasn't long ago when everybody was doing it. I remember Bryce Harper did one. Ryan Howard.
Yes, he did.
I remember driving up to Lakewood to cover Ryan Howard doing a few rehab games. Chase Utley did some in Lehigh Valley. Roy Halladay did a couple out in Lakewood. So,
Pedro Martinez pitched several games. Raul Ibanez went out and did a rehab a few times when he had that sports hernia or whatever. Listen, I just feel like getting the atmosphere, and the facilities in the minor leagues now are like really good. Like the lighting's much better. They've really done a lot of different things to make. And I know there's a danger, you get hit by a pitch or something can happen, but that could happen at any time. It could happen stepping, walking off a sidewalk. I think so. I just feel like I think that the facilities and the way it's set up, I think And it also causes some esprit de corps. I mean, when a big-time player comes down and plays in Reading or Lehigh Valley, he gets a big spread. He gets to hang out with some of the minor league players. They get to, I think it's a cool thing. And I still think it's but more importantly, I do think it's important for guys to just get that feel of being in a real competitive atmosphere, especially if it's been a long IL. Like if it's been a month or a month and a half. Wow, it's different, man. It's different. It's almost like going through spring training again for me.
And you got somebody on the other on the mound facing you, pitching, and they're trying to get you out.
Yeah. Right.
And, when you're underneath against the high velo machine, yes, it's a challenge, but, there's not a heartbeat there that's trying to get you out and trying to in your face. And that competitiveness, even for 2 or 3 games, I think can be good. But we're belaboring that. We both agree that we hate to see the demise of the rehab assignment. I want to look a little bit ahead. Maybe the Phillies can build on Sunday. They move on to Dodger Stadium, one of my favorite places. I'm sure one of your favorite places on Monday night. Phillies are 66-45, still the best record in the National League, in spite of what they've had to go through the last inconsistency the last 5-6 weeks, but recently a real tough stretch. So Phillies 66-45, Dodgers second best record in the National League at 65-47. Only a game and a half behind the Phillies for best record in the National League. It's important for home field seating in the playoffs. Phillies have already swept the Dodgers a month ago at Citizens Bank Park. It was sort of one of the high points of this Phillies season. The Phillies sweep LA over here at Citizens Bank Park early in June, and they go 29 games over 500. That's in that sweep. Since then, though, Phillies are 5-13, 5-13 since that sweep of the Dodgers. So we'll see if they can really build on this. Monday night, terrific pitching matchup. A couple of guys who can strike out a lot of hitters: Aaron Nola and Tyler Glasnow. Game 2 of the series, Christopher Sanchez and Clayton Kershaw. And then game 3 of the series on Wednesday, Tyler Phillips against TBA. I'm sorry. So, the Phillies, I think it's a great move that they can have Aaron Nola starting this series, because he's an awfully good one. Glasnow is awfully good, but to me, it's really important that you try to build on Sunday and start a little winning streak here. Nola's a good guy to have going. I got to think Harper, Schwarber, Stott all be in a better frame of mind after a pretty good showing at the plate on Sunday. You thinking they can carry or build some momentum here going to the Dodger Stadium, coming off Seattle on Sunday?
I think they can. I think obviously getting that win, it was a big win. And was really, it starts with the starting pitching. We talk about that all the time. Hopefully Aaron Nola can keep things close. The Dodgers are banged up. They've got a lot of guys on the IL. I think Freddie Freeman might be back after the illness with his son. I think thank God and thank goodness for his family that Maximus is okay. Shout out to his family that they're okay. Freddie Freeman, I know he's been an enemy of ours, but one of my favorite all-time players in baseball and people. I'm really happy. I'm really happy for him. They don't have Mookie Betts. They don't have Muncy. Chris Taylor's not around. They're banged up a little bit. They're starting pitching. They don't have Yamamoto. They did pick up Flaherty. He's not going to be pitching in this series. But Glasnow, he's got filthy stuff, and he stayed healthy so far. He's had trouble doing that. They signed him to a big contract, and it was one of the reasons why they wanted to create some more pitching depth. But they're facing basically guys not that dissimilar from what they faced last night in yesterday in Logan Gilbert.
Arms and legs.
These guys, big, long, lanky guys with big arms and big fastballs and nasty breaking stuff. And so at least they've seen this type of guy here recently. They didn't do a ton of damage against him, but hopefully they can and sort of build on that. And
they got Ohtani. You got Ohtani over there. He's one of those guys to me. I'm mean, I'm sitting on my couch, so it's easy to be a fan. I would think sitting in the other dugout, you got to kick yourself a little bit and say, I got to try to beat this guy and not just kind of like go, wow, is he good? But he is really good. He's at, 33 home runs and 30-plus stolen bases, leading the National League, Ruben, in runs, home runs, batting average, on base, slugging, OPS, total bases. He might be the MVP right now.
No doubt.
No primary DH has ever won the MVP. You okay with that? If a DH wins the MVP?
Typically, I mean, my old school thought process would be no, but the way he's swinging the bat and what he's done, I mean, listen, if they didn't have him in their lineup, they'd be done. I mean, they literally,
value.
Yeah, they literally would be done. There's no way that they are where they are without him. And at being most valuable player, I think that means a lot to this team, this Dodgers team. I mean, I can't imagine that they would be in first place without his impact in the top part of this lineup, especially having Mookie Betts, who's an MVP candidate almost every year, down, and others down in their lineup like Muncy and others. But I typically would say no, but he's as unicorn as it gets, man. I mean, this guy, I actually have talked about this a lot in the past. I think this guy should just be like a full-time player. Let him play right field. Let him play left field. He's an athletic guy. Obviously, he can run. He can play the outfield and maybe DH him from time to time. I know he probably wants to pitch because he wants to be the ultimate unicorn. But I would just let him go roam out in the outfield and just rake and be, an MVP candidate, because he'd probably be a Gold Glove type outfielder. And so, I mean, he's that athletic. That said, I mean, the Phillies handled him pretty darn well in the last time they faced him, and he did not do a whole lot of damage. And I'm not sure if they can do that again, but if they can, that will go a long, long way to trying to take 2 out of 3 from these guys at least.
Yeah, you talk about that MVP award. The middle name is value, and where would a good team be without player X? To me, and if that really good team is and if that team is a really good team like the Dodgers, where would they be without Ohtani? They wouldn't be the Dodgers.
Head in the water.
They wouldn't be nearly where they are. They wouldn't have a chance to have the best record in the National League with a good series against the Phillies. I mean, Phillies don't want that to happen. They have to prevent it from happening. It's going to be a fun series. It's an important series for some October implications, home field and whatnot. It's also important for the Phillies to build on that last day in Seattle. One win does not a slump break, in my opinion. You need 2, you need 3, you need to build on it. You need to get back to kind of what you were here, show some consistency. So hopefully they'll do that. Where does Dodger Stadium rank for you, Ruben, on your list of favorites?
Yeah, it's up there. I've had some decent memories there. I actually had a game-winning home run against one of their setup guys years ago in the year 96, when I actually had a pretty good pinch hitting year that year. And didn't get a lot of hits in Dodger Stadium, but that was a big one for me. It's just it's an iconic place. It ranks up there in the top 3 or 4 for me. I love the Seattle's ballpark. That's really, really cool. It's beautiful. Obviously a beautiful setting, especially when it's open. We had great weather there. We're going to have great weather here, I believe, as well. It's going to be a little warm for LA, but we'll take it. And I really like San Francisco. I guess it's Oracle Park. I love Citizens Bank Park and PNC Park. Those 2 ballparks are probably, and then Camden Yards. I mean, it still has held it. I mean, it was the first retro one, and it still might be the best one. And so those are probably the best ones. Obviously, Wrigley and Fenway have their own feel to it, and they're cool ballparks as well. But Dodger Stadium, man, there's pretty darn iconic.
I absolutely love Dodger Stadium. I love the way it sits on the bottom of that canyon. And when you drive in, you kind of go up these terraces in the side of a hill, and you actually enter high above the ballpark at the upper deck, and you have to take the elevator down to the press box.
Right.
The view is spectacular. The Dodger dogs are great. I mentioned my favorite moments covering the Phillies over the years. 1994, the home opener, 65,000 at Veterans Stadium. John Kruk literally rolls out of a radiation treatment, doubles to the gap, standing ovation, still makes the hair on my neck stand up. The other favorite moment, Matt Stairs, Dodger Stadium, 08, deep into the night. Unbelievable that 60,000 people or whatever it was, 58,000 people in that ballpark could be so quiet. You could actually hear the Phillies dugout cheering up in the press box as Matt Stairs ran around the bases. So that was at Dodger Stadium. I can still feel that moment. So it's a special place. I hope you enjoy the 3-game series there.
Hey, Jim, did you hear me crying when that happened? Because I literally brought me to tears.
Well, you cry at a sunset.
That's a good point. But I literally was brought to tears.
You guys
were
like,
about it now.
The press box is here. You guys, your box was like two or three down.
Right.
So I should have said the stadium was quiet except for the Phillies box, which was like two or three down. We could hear you guys over there. And when that ball came off the bat, I hit my knee on like an electrical outlet under the press box. And do you know I still have a knot in that knee because I hit it with such force. That ball came off off that bat. It was unbelievable. And there's that great picture in the Hall of Fame Club at Citizens Bank Park. As it's coming off the bat, there's a picture above the Phillies dugout, and you can see some of Dave Montgomery is behind the dugout, and you can see him rising and just follow it, and then the looks of elation starting to explode on people's face. It's a still shot from the newspaper. Fabulous storytelling picture. So Dodger Stadium, man, love that place.
Sure do. Sure, it'll be fun. Hey, Jimmy, do we have some people ask some questions for this next pod? I guess we're going to probably do on Wednesday. We're going to have them to send in some questions for us. I think that's something that we were thinking about trying to do. We're
going to try to do that on Wednesdays, but I probably should run that by Elmer. That's what I call Todd. Todd, I call Elmer because he's the glue.
Yeah, he is. But so, if people are watching this. Yeah, people are watching this. Yeah, go ahead and send some questions in to us and into the Todd pod.
Into the Todd pod. Well, I hope we pulled it off without our backbone, our leader. And I thank you for listening and watching this episode of the Phillies Show. And Ruben, I will smell you later.
Smell you, Jim.
This is The Phillies Show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Phillies Show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. If you like what we do, give us a review. Tell a friend. Catch Ruben, Jim, and me on Phillies Nation TV, presented by Valley Forge Tourism. New episodes air an hour before every Saturday Phillies game on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Replays air throughout the week and on PhilliesNation.com. Get more of Ruben's analysis during, before, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Read Jim at the All City Network at allphly.com. Find more of me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and occasionally on MLB Network.